Guys, my name is Kayla Rain, and today I am bringing you a new type of video for me, and it is going to be kind of like a little mini recommendation type deal, but I'd like to talk about a book that I'd like to recommend if you enjoyed Twilight. So, if you enjoyed Twilight, you should check out Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. So this is not an original concept from me. This is actually very much inspired by Epic Reads series that they do called Like, Try, Why, which I've seen on their Instagram and Twitter and all that great stuff. And it's very much inspired by Trina from Between Chapters, who did a couple of videos on this when she started her channel like 9 months ago. So definitely go check out both of those different creators, because that is where this idea is inspired from. It is not from me, but I was just very much inspired from it, so I'm giving credit where credit is due. But I know that I'm a little bit late on the bandwagon of Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. I seriously feel like everyone and their mother has read this book. I even went onto my Goodreads channel. I even went onto my Goodreads page and saw that yeah, almost all of my Goodreads friends have read this book and rated it over 3 stars for pretty much all of them. So very late to the game here, but I wanted to talk about some very apparent themes that I saw in both Twilight and Daughter of Smoke and Bone, talk about why you should read this if you like Twilight, and then also talk about how it separates itself from Twilight. So we shall dig in now. So one of the major themes that I saw that was very apparent to me in both Twilight and Daughter of Smoke and Bone was the star-crossed lovers. And this is something that, when done right, is very satisfying. And honestly, when I read Twilight, I was very pleased with that storyline. And the first Twilight book still holds up for me, guys, so I still enjoy that. And then Daughter of Smoke and Bone, this was just done incredibly well as far as the star-crossed lovers theme, and just being in 2 completely separate worlds and not really being meant to be together based on your life and all that other stuff, but still doing it anyway because, man, love always wins, right? And then the other theme that was just dead on for both books was the whole lion fell in love with the lamb type deal. In Twilight, of course, you have Edward and Bella, Edward being a vampire and being like this monstrous creature that innocent Bella should never fall in love with. And then in Daughter of Smoke and Bone, you have Akiva, which I see to be kind of like the monster. Even though he is portrayed as an angel, he has this really dark past that just gives his character so much complexity and makes him almost monstrous in a way. And then you have Karou, who, though is not your typical like innocent girl next door type deal, and I just thought that the way that both of these books portrayed that, it was written really well and not in like this awful creepy way. So I enjoyed that it was written in a way that was really beautiful and just really great to see everything play out. Now, those are the 2 major things that I think, like, if you liked those storylines in Twilight, definitely check out Daughter of Smoke and Bone. But I want to take a moment to talk about why you should read Daughter of Smoke and Bone anyway, because there are some very distinct things that set it apart from Twilight that I think just make it so much more enjoyable and such a better story to read. So, the first thing I'm going to point out is the character development and the reaction and relationships between all the characters. This is something that was missing for me in Twilight. I felt like it was really lacking in that department. The closest thing you came to a friendship in Twilight was between Alice and Bella, and even that left me wanting more, and I felt like there was never really any development there between those 2. However, in Daughter of Smoke and Bone, there's so many great relationships, and the characters really play off each other well in that book. My absolute favorite is definitely between Karou and Susanna. They have a great relationship, and just the way the characters build off of each other, you can really see some development forming there, even in just the first book, which was just really incredible to see. And I think that's something that really set it apart from Twilight for me and just like brought it up a notch as far as being a really well-written book with a developed character list. Another thing that really set it apart and just made it incredible was the backstory that we have for our main characters. There was some backstory set up for both Edward and Bella in Twilight, but it was just, it was rushed. it was kind of set up like these things happened, this is why we're there, let's live in the present and talk about the now. However, with Daughter and Smoke and Bone, you get this beautiful, complex background for your main characters that just really sets up this incredible world and storyline and just sets the book up to such a high standard that the rest of the series can only go up from there, because it's just going to build off of that amazingness. And I know that I might be very optimistic right now saying that the series is just getting better having not read it, but the way this book was set up, there's so much to be explored, and the backstory just leaves so much information to be had in this series, and it was incredible. I was just really taken aback by how everything came together so well, from the past stories, the present, and then what is going to be in the future. I am just so excited to see where this goes, and that's something that I never had with Twilight. I was honestly happy with the first book, and if it ended there, I would have been okay, because it didn't spur me on to want more quite the same way that Daughter of Smoke and Bone did. So those are the major differences that I think really set it apart and make it a better book. But I think the major themes within Twilight really transfer over to Daughter of Smoke and Bone, so if you like that, I would definitely recommend checking out Daughter of Smoke and Bone. If you enjoy the star-crossed lover and the girl falling in love with the monster type deal, then it is definitely something you should check out for sure. If you didn't like Twilight, still recommend Daughter of Smoke and Bone, because even though that main storyline is there, if you just didn't like Twilight based on the fact that it didn't have great character development, great relationships, all that stuff, Daughter of Smoke and Bone does have that, so you will get all your fulfillment on that little checklist if you read that. Bottom line is, read Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor, because it is amazing. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars, pretty much a 4.5 out of 5 stars, because it was pretty amazing. So yeah, highly recommend checking it out. Love this, and I can't wait to move on to the second book and then the third book and just mourn the loss of not having this series to discover again, because then I'll know what happens. Book nerd problems, am I right? I know that I also mentioned things that were different about Twilight, but I just wanted to put it out there that reading Daughter of Smoke and Bone brings a different experience as well. Even though those main themes are there, there are some things in Daughter of Smoke and Bone that really set it apart and make it just this really incredible book to read. I cannot stress enough how wonderful the characters are in this book, and like how well developed they are just in the first book, and we still have 2 more to see that development grow, so I'm really looking forward to that. Highly recommend it, and I love it. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Stay weird.